Hey VR fans, this is Justin, and today we are going to be reviewing the Ride1UP Portola. It's a Class 3 folding mid-fat tire bike from Ride1UP that has created quite a bit of stir in the market. It's under $1,000, packed with features, and it's kind of a shot across the bow against Lectric on the XP 3.0, which has been one of the most popular, if not the most popular selling e-bike for the last couple years. So hang with us as we go through this review and find out what we think about the Portola. All right, so let's dive into the Ride1UP Portola. A lot of cool stuff on this bike. Starting out just under $1,000. You're going to see throughout this review, there's a lot of bang for your buck, which Ride1UP is known for, and they really hit it out of the park on this one with that price point. So the bike comes in one size only, right? You'll see it's a step-through model, so you have a really low step-through height here. So if you're someone with mobility issues, all you have to do is be able to clear this handle and get off the bike. I also, side note, really like the handle. Just makes it very utilitarian when it's folded up, or even if you're trying to like pick it up and put it into a car, etc. The frame is an aluminum alloy, 300-pound max capacity. It is stated on the website to fit people 4'10" to 6'4". Now, the saddle goes down to about 30 inches down here to right now, it's right at about 38 inches high. So I do think Ride1UP is extending that range a little bit. I think a 5 foot or 4'10" rider is going to be fine. 6'4" rider, you're just going to have a little bit more of a challenge getting that leg extension. You know, I'm just under 6 foot, call it 5'11", and I'm not at my full leg extension that I would like to be at, but it's not bad for me. What I really think is anybody over 6'2" is going to feel like they want a little bit more leg extension. So it's a good range of height, but again, if you're 6'4", just know you're not going to get kind of that full leg extension out of that. Now on the bike as well, you'll notice it comes with fenders front. So you got the front fender, you got the rear fender. Now the fenders are steel, so if you get a rock kind of bouncing around, you'll hear it. But they're nice, they're sturdy. We haven't had any rubbing on anything there, and they'll definitely keep you nice and clean as you're riding around. The rear rack, they've actually done really well. So you see you have nice thick seat stay, chain stay there, and then this rack welded has a 130-pound weight capacity, and I found it to be very sturdy overall. Up top, kind of a nice little addition that they've done. The strap is for when you're folding it up to keep it folded together. It's one of the only bikes that we've seen in this price range that has any kind of mechanism. I like it. I kind of wish it was a more permanent solution. I think over time this might wear out and you'll miss it. I'm sure you can probably get a replacement, but that's just kind of one side thing to note on that. Mounting points on the bike. You do have rear mounting points on both sides here for a bike trailer. And kind of cool that they added that. You have mounting points for a water bottle here on the seat tube. So with the water bottle here, again, that will slightly affect your step over height. You'll have to come in front just a little bit, but it's nice that they've done that. And then there's also front mounting brackets for a front rack. If you like, just note on a front rack, I usually recommend that you lock out the fork so it doesn't compress and kind of make the ride a little bit wobbly when you're going there. Moving on, the tires, they are 20-inch by 3-inch Chow Yang tires, and you'll see on those tires, they're knobby tires. So they have actually pretty good grip for if you kind of are in an off-road scenario. And I like how they went with 3-inch tires instead of 4-inch tires, just because the 3-inch tires are a little more nimble, especially on a 20-inch wheel. If they were 4-inch, they would just kind of feel really sluggish, but you still feel very stable on these. The recommended PSI is 35. I'd say start about 15 or 20 and just see if you're, if you start to get bulging down here, put a little more PSI in it. But you don't have to run these at 35. I think I usually run them right around 20 PSI for me. Other key features to kind of point out, you do have a front light. It is a 40 lux front light, so it's more to be seen by other people than for you to see. The light path is fairly contained. It doesn't spread out a ton. And to be honest, I don't know what the lumen rating is on this. Lux is technically a rating of how bright it is what you're shining on. So if you're kind of shining on this part here, there's 40 lux hitting my hand, not what the output is. But again, it's a decent light. It's good. It's got a nice reflector there. Oh, sorry. It's a decent light. It's good. It's got a nice reflector, but it is more to be seen than to see. On the rear, you have a brake light. It does not have turn signals, just notice, so you will have to use your hands on that. Kind of overall impressions on the bike is this is a very solid, sturdy folding bike. Sometimes these folders, you kind of feel waffly on them, especially where it folds down here and the rear. But on this bike, you just have really nice, thick, again, kind of tubing throughout. Nice, down tube here, nice and thick for the battery. You have, again, the seat stay and the chain stays that are thick, welded well, and it just gives the bike a really good solid feel when you're riding. Okay, let's dive into the heart and the soul of the Portola by Ride1UP, and that is the motor, the battery, and the controller. The motor is a 750 watt rear hub motor. It produces 65 newton meters of torque, and it is pretty peppy, I will say that. You can set the bike up as class 1, 2, or 3, and you get on and it kind of gives you a nice kickstart. You get going and it just does a good job. It does a good job up hills, and it's pretty powerful in general, so I think they did a really good job there. The controller, which is right here, first of all, I really kind of like where they put that, where if you do need to kind of do any maintenance or anything on the controller, easy to get to. And it's a 48 volt 20 amp sine wave controller is their technical word for it. Again, I really do like the location if you do need to replace that. The battery is here integrated into this down tube, and it is UL certified. Again, the battery is UL certified for now, and you have two different options. Both options are 48 volt, but one is a 10.4 amp hour, so 500 watt hours total capacity. The other, you can pay an extra $100 and get a 13.4 amp hour, which is 643 watt hours. And the estimated ranges on those batteries on the smaller 10.4 amp hour is 20 to 40 miles. The larger one, they expect 25 to 45, and that kind of matches up to what we saw at Electric Bike Report in their real world testing. They got 22 to 50 miles. But technically their battery was, I think, 13.6 amp hours. So I would say on the smaller battery, you'll probably get right about that 20, if you're just kicking it in full PS5 and throttling it, maybe 18 or 19 miles an hour, and you'll get close to that 40. So I do think that the range is right on par. Again, that can be a lot variable based on tire pressure, weight, how much you're riding, etc. I like the two battery options. I think it just gives you that opportunity. If you're never going to ride much more than 20 miles and just go with the lower one, personally, I would recommend that spending the extra $100, getting that extra, 100 or so watt hour, 143 extra watt hours in the extra range. Last part here is on the cadence sensor. So they have set this up with a 24 magnet cadence sensor. And it is, I will say, it is very smooth. It is very responsive when you're starting to ride. It starts when you start moving the crank, it'll start. When you stop, it'll stop. They have programmed it to allow 10 degrees So 10 degrees is probably about that of movement before it kicks in. And I like that because if you accidentally, you know, kick the pedals and it moves, it's not going to lurch forward and take off on you. So I like the fact that they did that with it. And I would say this is a more natural feeling motor thanks to that torque sensor than you normally find on like $1,000 e-bike. If you're someone looking at like a $700 or $800 e-bike on Amazon, just full stop, don't look at something like this because it is significantly better than what you'll get elsewhere. Okay, let's dive into the components now on the Portola, and starting with the drivetrain. I like a lot how they spec'd this with a Shimano Altus 8-speed drivetrain. So, you know, that front chainring, it's a 48 tooth chainring. I did not experience ghost pedaling on this, and I felt like those 8 gears gave me enough range whether I was going up hills or then turning around and going down hills in PS5. So it's also nice that it is Shimano and that Altus because it's easily serviced. Most bike shops will carry the parts. They're familiar with Shimano. And Shimano just makes a lot of stuff. So it's very reliable and good quality, even though it is an entry-level drivetrain. The other thing that I like up front is they do have the trigger shifters. Just makes it a little more comfortable, easier to shift, and ultimately more controllable as you're riding around. The brakes are dual piston hydraulic disc brakes. They're unbranded, which isn't abnormal for this price range. You'll notice there's no Tektro, there's no Shimano or anything there. The rotors are 180 mil rotors, but what I've really got to give them kudos for is the thickness of the rotors, where they're 2.3 millimeters thick instead of the 1.8, and basically that just makes it, just gives you a little better stopping power, and it also holds up. So this is a folder, and if you're going to be banging around on that rotor sometimes as you're folding or whatever, moving it around, it's nice having a little thicker rotors on that, again, both for stopping power and just for durability, so they don't get bent. So once they get bent, they get annoyingly loud, and then the bike just doesn't feel like it rides as well. The kickstand, you'll notice, is back here on the rear, and I like that because if you're backpedaling or moving the bike backwards, you're not going to get hit. You're not going to hit that, so it makes it easier to walk around. Saddle, I think they call it a DDK comfort saddle. My backside is not very sensitive to saddles, so I'm usually pretty good on anything. I think it's very comfortable. Again, that's going to be up to you. You can obviously swap it out if you don't like it. And when you kind of combine a decent saddle with the front fork, the bike has a good overall feel. So the front fork has a couple things that I want to point out to you. First of all, it has 80 millimeters of travel. That's that amount there, right? It has a lockout right here. So again, if you're loading up the front, or if you're just on a road and you want to lock it out, you can lock it out. Switching it there, unlocking it there. I usually leave it unlocked most of the time. Funny thing, on the right side, it's like, it looks like it has some type of preload adjustment. This is fake. It doesn't do anything, so I don't know why it's there. But anyways, just know that's nothing. The thing that I will point out and give them definite kudos for, though, is the stanchions. So these stanchions are 34 mil thick, and you know, it just helps the bike feel a little stiffer, a little more solid, and just kind of beefs that up a little bit. So again, even though this is a $1,000 bike, you still are getting pretty decent components all the way around. Okay, time to step into the cockpit. So up front, you'll notice they are straight handlebars. They're 600 millimeter wide handlebars on this, and I found that to kind of be not too wide, not too short, kind of like in a Goldilocks area where most people are very comfortable with this, which is nice. But if you want to, you can swap that out with a different handlebar, again, if you'd like to. You'll notice here is the folding mechanism where you can lock it, and I'll get somebody to kind of hold the camera and show you how to lock it in a minute, but that's where you do that. And so again, take a look at the this is what it looks like as you come up. You have the thumb throttle on the left. I like thumb throttles versus twist throttles. That's my personal preference. Again, that's just me. Already talked about the 8-speed rapid, trigger shifters there. The handlebars, or sorry, the grips, just so you notice, they're ergonomic kind of rubber grips there. Okay. And kind of nice how they are locking. Let me see if I can get a shot. Yep. They are locking grips, so they won't move on you, which is really nice how they do that. Now, moving on, the brake levers, again, non-branded. They feel pretty decent though, and they feel fine. We've actually had this bike for a little while, and we haven't had any issues with that. And then here's what the cable management looks like up front. So it's fairly clean. They do have kind of these cables here with the light that I think you might want to integrate a little bit different. And then the wrapping goes up right until the connectors. And on this particular case, I think that's good to not come up higher. I think they would pinch them if they did that. So overall, the look is pretty clean, pretty nice throughout that cockpit. And it's nice and simple and clear of clutter, which again is very nice, especially if you're someone that hasn't ridden a bike for quite a while. Now moving to the screen here. Okay, so this is the KBY display. And to turn it on, pretty basic. Just hold down the power button. And what you'll see is the battery indicator. It is not a percentage battery indicator. Unfortunately, I love that versus the bar. It's been pretty accurate though, but sometimes the bikes with this type of display, it kind of goes down. Once you hit like a third, you drop faster than you did in the first third. You'll have 5 assist levels. Start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Shows your miles per hour. This shows your wattage output, which is kind of nice. And if you hit the power button, it kind of cycles through. So this is your miles. So that's your odometer. That's your trip, how long you went on the last trip. This is the time, how long you've been going. And this is your max watt power there. And your average wattage there. I generally leave it like this because I like to see how many watts the bike is out, producing as I go. Most of the things you'll pay attention to, obviously miles per hour and your battery. Now you can go in and change some things by holding up and down. That's trip computer. If you hit Y, it will reset the trip. So if you want to reset it, do that. Hold down the power button. It'll send you back. That's your backlight. So 3, 2, and 1. I recommend to keep that on 3, just to keep this as bright as you can. Then here it switches between, this is your units, so miles per hour and kilometers per hour. And those are the basic settings. You can get into more settings here. I'll link to a video that shows you if you hold down this further, it gets you even further into some stuff. I won't cover that here because there's a ton there. But then you're just here, so then you can just get out of it. Oh, sorry, that gets you into the extra settings where you can get into all these different things here. Then you hold down the power button to get back to the main screen. So again, I'll link to that video that Ride1UP's take you through everything where you can change the amps, the voltage, how many amps are at the lower part of the battery. There's a ton there. I don't want to take 20 minutes to do that. That's just the basic overview of what most people are going to use on the display. Again, it's a decent display. It's a $1,000 bike. I'm not expecting full color. Ultimately, I'd love to see him kind of upgrade this a little bit, tie it in with an app or something. But right now, that's not an option. Okay, so now for the fun part, I'm going to jump on the Portola. We're going to go take a spin, and I'm going to try to give you an idea of what it's like to ride the bike, both a little bit off-road because of those knobby tires and that front suspension, but then also on the bike path and around commuting. So let's jump on. All right, so as I mentioned, I think there's going to be a lot of people, you know, folding this up, throwing it in the back of their RV, the back of their truck, and taking it off road. So let's kind of see how it does back here. You know, I will say you hear a little bit of rattling back there as you go over bumps. You want to be this is not a fully off-road vehicle by any means, so just kind of be careful on that part. The front suspension though does absorb these bumps just fine, and it feels, you know, even for a folding bike, like I said, it feels pretty solid. I can feel through here, I don't know if you can see that, kind of down in the stem, moving just a little bit, but not bad and not unsafe by any means. Probably the biggest factor from an off-road standpoint for me might be, you know, just how narrow those handlebars are. Just again, take it a little bit easy, but you're totally fine to kind of go off on some of this stuff, venture out, and just have a lot of fun. Oh. I will also say it's in kind of scenarios like this where I appreciate how smooth that engagement is from the Cadence Sensor with those 24 magnets, where if you hit like a pothole like that, you got to stop before so you don't hit it. The bike's not going to keep lurching forward on you, and you're going to feel nice controlled through that. And you heard probably some of the chatter there on the derailleur. That Shimano Altus doesn't have a clutch. It's, you know, so again, take it easy, otherwise you might drop a chain on that. But overall, yeah, you can totally go off-road a little bit with this and have a little bit of fun. Not the primary purpose by any means. I don't want to make anybody think otherwise, but yeah, you can do some adventuring. Okay, so now as we hit the bike path, this is where the bike just feels like super comfortable at home. You know, that class 3 speeds gets you up to speed really nice. Very windy out here, so I'll go up here just a little bit, then turn around so you can hear me better. But see, here's another section where it's just nice having that suspension, those 3-inch tires. I was going into probably 20-mile-an-hour winds, and this was getting me up to 27, 28. Had to pedal, but it wasn't that bad. So let's start with some speed. So I'm just going to put it on the throttle and kind of show you how fast it gets up to that 20 miles per hour. Yeah, so there was 20 on the throttle. Again, I like the throttle function. If you just want to take a break, you can throttle. Now pedaling, let's stop back down here and get up to 28. I'll have a turn up here, but that's okay. So then at 25, 26, 27, 28 already. So so with the motor, again, it's, you know, it did pretty well on the hill test. And let's go down to PS1 here. It did pretty well on our hill test. We had over at Electric Bike Report. I do all those. It beat out the XP 3.0 just a little bit. 750 watt motor versus 500 watt. I would say the Electric XP is a powerful 500 watt, and this is on the lower end of the 750 watt. But the bike's just light. It's not big, you know, you don't have 4-inch fat tire wheels. And so it's, I mean, it's peppy up a hill. Peppy up a hill, peppy on flats, and just tons of fun. Again, that engagement here, So I'm going to start pedaling when I hear it. Let's go up to actually PS5. So you'll see here, I'm going to stop and then start engaging. There it goes. So about a quarter of a turn. And then when I stop, it almost stops immediately. So just really good engagement and disengagement. Disengagement is just as important for me. Possibly a little more important actually on that. Those 8 speeds, you know, when you get up to 28, you're almost to the point where it feels like it's close pedaling, but you're not. So I think they did a good job there. And just the overall feel of the bike. So we're gonna go over some dirt here. You know, when I kind of shake it around, move it, it just feels solid. Solid, stable, just good overall feel, and I like those knobby tires for sections like that. Motor noise, let you hear that. So I think that segment there, like you definitely hear it. I would say it's average to, yeah, probably just right about average for a rear hub 750 watt motor on that. And now I'm going to jump on the road here. A lot of people, again, are going to be using this as a commuter, so how does it do, right? Remember, there's brake lights, there's a front light, there's not turn lights. So if you're going to turn, you're going to want to signal with your hands. And this is where I like the throttle. You come up to a stop, want to get going, hit the throttle, and then start pedaling again. It's one of my kind of big beefs with people that don't want throttles on e-bikes. I think that adds some functionality as a commuter. Another big part is class 3, and it gets up to 28 nice and fast, right? So if I've got to get out and get in the, you know, kind of keep up with traffic as best as I can, I like the fact that it has that class 3 capabilities and it's nice and fast. You can also set this to class 1, disengage the throttle if you want, or set this as class 2. So follow your local laws, set this bike up how you're supposed to. You can even turn off the throttle actually in the settings. So just nice variability. Personally, I would definitely keep it as a class 3 for me. Where I live, I can use it that way. So yeah, sorry for the wind, but just overall, commuting does a really good job. And very comfortable. You have that rear rack so you can put stuff on it. You know, if you have a backpack, or if you want to throw some milk cartons on, you know, throw a gallon of milk or two, you will feel that a little bit more in the rear as you turn, but it doesn't feel unsafe. It still feels nice and solid on that. So in general, like, this bike kind of feels like just a quick, sporty, like kind of Mario Kart type feel. And it's just comfortable for me. You know, again, I'm 5'11". I'm not getting full leg extension, but because of that cadence sensor, I don't really have to push hard on the pedals. And so it's more kind of like just a relaxing, you know, spinning the wheels, spinning the cranks. Whereas if I had to push down hard, then I think that leg extension becomes a bigger problem. And that's especially for taller people on this bike. That's the one thing, just again, to kind of notice for yourself there. So last thing covers the brakes. Again, stopping power, you know, they're just 2-piston brakes, but that extra thickness on the rotors feels very comfortable. The engagement on them, I use 2 fingers on these, just nice, stable, sturdy. They do a good job. Yeah, you'll have to maintain them, you know, with bleeding the brakes every once in a while, but any bike mechanic can do that for you, or you can learn yourself as well. So yeah, kind of overall, from a ride quality standpoint, I think it did a good job. And I will say, you know, when this bike first came in, the thing that really kind of stood out for me, let's come back here, is just I thought the bike was more of like a $1,500 plus bike. I was not expecting this level spec, this kind of good solid ride quality out of $1,000 e-bike, you know, just under $1,100 if you get the extra, you know, the bigger battery. So I just think for Ride1UP, I'm giving them, you know, good kudos, 2 thumbs up on the overall feel and the quality of the Portola. Okay, now we're on to my newest favorite segment, the Mechanics Corner. I've got Ben here. Again, if you haven't seen our latest reviews, he's got a lot of years turning wrenches, and so we're going to ask him kind of his take as a bike mechanic, as a professional bike mechanic for the last several decades, what he thinks about the Ride1UP Portola. Okay, Ben, now from a pure mechanic standpoint, I know you didn't put this bike together. We got it right before you kind of joined the team here. But tell us what your thoughts are from a mechanic standpoint, what you like about the Portola, what you think, you know, could be improved on with the Portola from Ride1UP.
Great questions. Well, Justin, I really like the bike, and I was skeptical. I typically don't like folding bikes, and you put a motor and a battery on these things, and the amount of flex that sometimes you get out of a folding e-bike, I'm just not that fond of. This one, however, is different. I don't have much bad to say about it. I really enjoyed the way it felt. And when I say the way I felt, there's a hill that we call the pilot hill. So we test the acceleration coming up, well, turning around and coming back down, inevitably you're going to hit 30 or 35 miles per hour. Even on this little thing, it felt really nice, really solid, surprisingly solid for such a bike with pivots, hinges everywhere. I don't know what it was, but I really enjoyed the way it felt. The highlights on this bike, I would have to say, is a 34 mil stanchion fork. It definitely felt stiff and really confidence inspiring in the turns. The brakes felt really solid. I think that's partly due to the fact that they put 2.3 millimeter wide rotors on this, 180 millimeter diameter, 2.3 millimeters wide. I can feel the strength when I'm pulling on. The progression is awesome, good solid feel. I really like this bike for a folding e-bike.
Cool. So was there anything that you think Ride1UP could kind of improve on the next version of this bike?
That's a tough one for me. There's not a lot that especially at the price point, this bike just screams value, and not just cheap value, but ride quality value. It feels great. Being picky as usual, I would like to still see an oversized or hollow bottom bracket spindle on these bikes. I think that it's a little underwhelming to use a standard or old school, is what it would be referred to as a square taper bottom bracket spindle and crank arm interface. That's one thing. Another thing that I wish that they would not do is put rack mounts by the head tube. And the idea with that is, I understand that you want to have cargo, but if you put a rack on here with the weights, it's going to preload the suspension fork, and it's going to feel really squishy and unpredictable, especially in turns with weight on the front end. I think with a small wheel and a low axle height, it would just really make it feel squirrely, and those I think can just go away.
Got it. So you'd recommend people put weight on that rear rack?
Absolutely, yeah. This rear rack's awesome. It's welded on all the points. This thing can handle some weight and probably not have any kind of wobble at all.
Awesome. No, well, thank you, Ben. Like I said, I'm loving this segment. For those of you who would love Ben to cover additional parts of the bike, or if there's any specific components you'd like comments on, please let us know, and we'll just continue to grow out the segment. So yeah, thanks again, Ben. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Justin.
Okay, so I'm going to go over how you fold up the Portola. We get a lot of questions on that. And there's a couple things we've learned. So first of all, when you get it set up like this, we like this kind of 2 o'clock position. So where the clamp, where the pedal is just above the clamp there. Okay, so that'll be key. Next, these are foldable pedals, so you just push in and fold both sides. Okay, and if it comes off there, you just back pedal it right to where it's at. Now, next, I like to do the folding, the middle clamp first. So you just pull this pin, pull back. Okay, again, I knocked it there, so just go back if you need to. And then when I fold it back, I like to grab it up top here and then right here. I also do have the kickstand down for the first part. And then when I get about here, I kick the kickstand up and finish folding and set it down. You'll notice there is a little bar at the bottom here where you can rest the bike on. Now, a cool thing about the Portola is it does have this clamp And to clamp it, I like to go underneath the rear rack first, around the stanchion underneath the wire for the headlight and brake cable, and then just clamp that. So that keeps it tight there. And then the final part is just this stem. So there's a pin on the back that you push in, you unclamp that, then a button on the front that says press to open, and you bring it down. You'll notice it can hit that cabling, so you got to put that cabling to the side, and it comes down just like that. So when it's all done, it is 37 inches by about 21 by about 28.5 inches, and that is from front to back. So that's this handlebar here going to the back tire, and then width, and then height to this very top point there. So that's your dimensions for where it can be stored. And then picking it up, I like to grab this handle here and grab the back rack. Now again, the front part of this front tire is not going to fly away because you have that strap here, so you can just pick it up here and here. Now notice when I have it picked up, I can walk backwards with it. I can't walk forward because at some point these are going to rotate and get jammed up here. So you can walk backwards, and then just to pick it up here and here, pick it up like that. Be careful to not get grease from the chainring like I just did on my pants. That's just one thing to notice. But you can see it is still a little bit heavy, but you can get it in an RV, in the back of a truck, back of a car, if those dimensions work. And then to unfold it, it's just the opposite. So first, this clamp here, press down, make sure that is clamped tight going up. So that's clear. Then I unbuckle this, and I don't keep this dangling. I like to put that through and clamp that back up just so it doesn't get caught anywhere. And then to open it up again, I grab that part there, lift it up just a little. Now you'll notice there's still a little bit of gap. I like to grab this middle portion. Don't get your fingers. So just grab it here nice and tight, and then clamp it down. Make sure it's clamped. Then you got the pedals. Back out. And you're ready to ride. Okay, so that's the review of the Portola from Ride1UP. I think you can see I'm personally a pretty big fan of this bike, especially the price point. That $1,000 is just very compelling for so many people, given all the things that you can do on this bike. Folding e-bikes kind of took off within the RV crowd because they could fold it up, put it in the RV, go camping, kind of ride around. I think this just nails that. Like, just perfectly straight down the middle. Great option for that. Again, I think this is a very big, Ride1UP sitting back and saying, hey, I'm seeing Lectric XP 3.0s everywhere. Let's come in and make our own version. And true to Ride1UP's kind of traditional form, they came in with good high quality components, kept the price low, and just have produced what I think is an outstanding bike. If it was $4,000, I'd be a lot more critical, but at $1,000 price range, there really isn't much more they could have done to improve this bike and to provide, consumers with a lot of value. So if you're someone who is looking for a folding kind of mid-fat tire e-bike to just either ride around town or take it, throw it in the back of your truck, the back of your car, your RV, and kind of travel with it and, hit some of these off-road paths even as well, this is one that I would definitely recommend. So yeah, that's kind of our review. As always, if you have any questions on something that we didn't cover, leave those in the comments down below. There'll be links to our full review on the website. There'll be links to where you can buy it from Ride1UP. And I hope this was helpful. If there's anything you think we can improve, also let me know. Definitely listening to all these comments. As I kind of get to know everybody here at EBR more. So thank you. I appreciate it if you've stuck along this far, and I hope to see you out on the trail soon.